Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The House Government Operations Committee for Monday, March 11th is called to order. Clerk, please take the roll.
Representatives Bolso, Carr, Chisholm, Clemens, Crawford, Eldridge, Faison, Hakeem, Helton Haynes, Himmer, Johnson, Jones, Kiesling, Kumar, Lafferty, Littleton, Martin, McAlman, Rudder, Vice Chairman Reedy, Chairman Reagan.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, members. Personal orders. Seeing none, I do have one, but I will delay that since we're going to take a bill out of order. Members, item number 8, House Bill 1771. I'll pass the gavel. I'm sorry, 1781. I'll pass the gavel to the Vice Chair. Vice Chair Reedy, you have the gavel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On item number 8, House Bill 1781, can I get a motion? We've got a motion and a second. Chairman Reagan, please continue with your bill, sir.
Thank you, members. This is a sunset standard bill for the University of Tennessee Board of Trustees to June 30th, 2028. And we have members of the UT staff here to testify if necessary. I ask that we go out of session and have President of the University come forward, please.
Without objection, out of session. President Boyd, come up and introduce yourselves for the record and to the committee, sir.
Check your mic.
Check your mic.
Try again.
There you go.
Test.
Thank you, sir.
Good. Good afternoon, members of the committee. Randy Boyd, President of the University of Tennessee System. I'm proud to have DeCosta Jenkins, our Chairman of Audit, here to speak with you first, and then I'll follow up with a few other additional comments. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Hear me?
There.
Try it one more time.
Can you hear me?
There you go.
All right, thank
Please
you.
introduce yourselves for the record.
Yes, my name is DeCosta Jenkins, and I chair the Audit and Compliance Committee for the University of Tennessee Board of Trustees. And want to just say that we are excited and to be here. I want to take a moment to recognize two of my fellow members, Dr. Charlie Hatcher. He's the Tennessee Commissioner of Agriculture, and Mr. Lang Wiseman. He's a former Deputy and Chief Counsel of Governor Lee, and who's now a shareholder with the law firm of Baker Donaldson. They're both here in the audience with us. When we last appeared before this committee, it was in connection with our 2019 sunset audit. At the time of the hearing, the final appointee of the board had not yet been confirmed, and every member of the board was new to that role. On behalf of the board, I'd like to express our appreciation once again for the recommendations contained in the Controller's 2019 report. It was useful not only as an assessment of our internal controls, but as a guide to shaping priorities and further refining the work of the Board of Trustees. This past fall, we provided the university's written responses to the Sunset public hearing questions and addressed the Government Operations Joint Subcommittee on Education, Health, and General Welfare. I would like to thank the members of the subcommittee for the positive feedback. I will not take up your valuable time by walking through each of the items covered in the survey questions. Instead, I would like to share some highlights of the transformational changes that have taken place over the last few years. It is often said that one of the most important responsibilities of a governing board is selecting the organization's chief executive officer. This year is the 5th anniversary of the board's appointment of Randy Boyd as president of the UT system. From day one, President Boyd has been passionate about making this the greatest decade in the history of the University of Tennessee. President Boyd is a visionary, he's energetic, and a servant leader. His enthusiasm and optimism are contagious. Positivity and a sense of purpose has spread throughout the entire organization. President Boyd and his senior leadership team are fully committed to the university's mission, and we anticipate further success during the next half of the greatest decade in the history of the University of Tennessee. As a board, our primary goal is to ensure that the University of Tennessee continues to be a beacon of higher education excellence, providing accessible and high-quality education while stewarding public resources responsibly. We remain steadfast in advancing three key priorities: improving student success, expanding research opportunities, enhancing outreach and engagement. While the board sets the direction and strategy, it is the president who leads the day-to-day operations of the university. As the individual responsible for executing against the board's priorities, I would like to ask President Board to share some of the highlights of the university's recent performance and key initiatives.
Thank you, Chairman DeCosta Jenkins, and thank you, members of the committee, for giving us a few moments today. So I'm going to start off with just gratitude. Start off with saying thank you to each of you. Most of the Tennesseans that I'm familiar with across the state have no idea how hard you work. Myself, my members of my University of Tennessee team do. Thank you for your commitment, your public service, and the difference you make in the state of Tennessee. I want you to know we really appreciate it. Second, thanks for putting our state in such great physical position. Your stewardship has put us making us the envy of the country. When I go to a higher education function around the country, most states are struggling to be able to support higher education. Not true in our state. So we appreciate the position that you put us in, and then also just your prioritizing education in general. We're blessed to be in this state, and I just want to make sure that I take a moment to say thank you for your leadership. Second, I want to say thank you to my board. We have one of the hardest working boards, I think, that I've ever been associated with. I hate to admit it, but currently I'm on 17 different boards. 11 of them actually expect me to show up, and I do. Some they just want my name on there. I've been in my lifetime well over 50 boards, and I can say, I want to say this in the right way so I don't hurt anybody else's feelings. There's never been a harder working board that I've ever been associated with. Since I've been here over the last 5 years, they met officially over 100 times by statute. Another 50 additional meetings. So 150 meetings over just a 5-year period. Before every board meeting, we inundate them with material, on average over 500 pages worth of materials they have to read. Then they have to hear from me each week, either via email or by phone or in person, and almost every week. So it's a hardworking board, and they don't get paid for this. They do it because they love the university and they love our state. So I just want to give a shout out to the hardest working board that I know of, and appreciate their great work. A week and a half ago, we had a Board of Trustees meeting in which I gave the summary of the last 5 years. It took about 30 minutes. I'm going to share just 3 things with you in less than 2 minutes. So first off, I want to talk about enrollment. One of the things that you guys hear a lot, I hear a lot, is that higher education isn't growing. In fact, it's flat to declining. Not true in the state of Tennessee, and particularly not true at the University of Tennessee. In the last 5 years, our total enrollment has grown by 13.8%. And part of it is because we're just retaining the students that come. A big part of it is new enrollment, but we're also keeping the students that come. Our 4 or 6 year retention rate is 3.8% increase over the last 5 years, and our 4-year retention rate is up 3.1%. And by the way, a lot of people have asked, well, why do you even talk about 6 years? Shouldn't we talk about 4-year only? Just a stat to note. Our students on average graduate in 4.22 years. So we're getting close to every of them graduating in 4 years, and it's coming down significantly just in the last 5 years. Last year, we increased by enrollment by 4.8% just in a single year to 58,726, and graduated 13,426 students. That's a tremendous amount of new talent coming to our state through our university. And speaking of talent, we are the biggest producer of talent in the state of Tennessee. We need all the different fields that we graduate in our technical schools and our community schools. And those that know me know I believe in those schools, but we also need nurses, and we need teachers, and we need doctors and dentists and engineers. And the University of Tennessee is the #1 producer of all those skills, plus many others. So we're not just graduating students, we're graduating the workforce of the state of Tennessee for the future. Second thing I wanted to highlight was that we're also affordable. In the last 5 years, our average tuition has only increased by 1% or less, depending on the university. So if you think about it, inflation's been much higher than that. A degree at the University of Tennessee costs less today than it did 5 years ago. So we're maintaining our costs. 48% of our graduates are graduating currently today with no debt. So you also hear about students graduating with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, not at the University of Tennessee. our students are graduating 48% with no debt, and we're working to bring that down even further. The keeping tuition low is a part of it, but another way in which we're doing it is with a new program that we introduced 5 years ago called UT Promise, which we enhanced last year. With the enhancement, the UT Promise says that if your family income is under $75,000 and you qualify to enter one of our schools, you can go completely free of tuition and fees. That means that 66.7% of all Tennesseans can actually enter any one of our University of Tennessee campuses free of tuition and fees. That 48% graduating with no debt was before we introduced that program. So we believe that that number is going to continue to go down. And then lastly, third point and final point, we also want to be accessible. It's great if it's affordable, but it also needs to be accessible. One of the ways in which we made it accessible was acquiring a new university in Southern Middle Tennessee. It used to be called Martin Methodist. Now it's UT Southern. If you lived in Southern Middle Tennessee and you wanted to get a public four-year education, you had to leave home. You had to go 90 miles north, or you had to come to Knoxville or to Martin. And there's a lot of people in those communities that just simply couldn't afford, for family reasons or other reasons, to leave home. And so their only choice was to either go to Martin Methodist, which was a private school that cost $26,000 a year, or they would have to actually go to Alabama, where they were offering in-state tuition. Now, I know, looking across the room, that you guys don't always agree on everything, but one thing we can agree on: the last thing we want to do is send our kids to Alabama for an education. So by creating UT Southern, we reduced tuition from $26,000 down to $10,000, making it more affordable for everybody in Southern Middle Tennessee. And now those students are also eligible for the UT Promise. Last September, we introduced a new policy too, called the Guaranteed Early Admittance Policy, which said if you're in the top 10% of your high school graduating class, wherever you're at, whether it's Lake County or Fentress County or any inner city, anywhere in our state, if you can graduate in the top 10% of your high school, you're also guaranteed admittance, early admittance into any of our campuses, making us more accessible to more students that might otherwise not have even tried to make it to the University of Tennessee. As Chairman Jenkins said, we are going to make this the greatest decade in the history of the University of Tennessee, and we'll do that with the great staff and students that we have at the University of Tennessee, with our great board, and with your support. Thank you, and we'll turn it over.
Thank you,
Ms.
President Boyd and Chairman Jenkins, for the good news. Questions, comments from the committee? Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And sometimes life happens and it takes 6 years. I appreciated UT because I had to have emergency open heart surgery when I was there, and was able to do that, and also got married, and those two things made it last 6 years. But so life happens, and it does happen that way. So it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Thank you for saying that. If I could just expound on that we do talk a lot about graduating in 4 years, but so many of our students are working, and because of the economy over the last several years, more and more are working. Sometimes they're working 40 hours a week. So it's not a bad thing if it takes a few years longer. Thank you.
And I was also working 40 hours a week. So, and I graduated debt free, but unfortunately, minimum wage jobs these days won't pay tuition, but it does help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Kumar, you're next on my list, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Certainly, Mr. Chairman and Mr. President, you brought exceptional leadership, vision, and success to UT. And I think for our flagship institution, it has been well served by you. I think the fact that you're paying attention to student debt, and you're paying attention, your innovative program about UT Promise are definite pluses. Just could you kindly address the matter of our national rankings? Where does UT stand at this time, and what does that mean?
Well, thank you for the question. I'll say two things. I don't know what the ranking is for UT Knoxville today, and we have 5 campuses, so I'd have to come back to you with a ranking for each of the campuses. And it also, there's a different ranking for each college, and that could be, wildly different. But if I could, I'll say one thing that I think is important, because I say this publicly all the time. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about the rankings because I think they're flawed. One of the ways in which universities are ranked is based on selectivity, meaning how many students you can reject. If you reject 20% of the students, then maybe you're top 50. If you can reject like, I'm sorry, 80%, you're top 50. If you reject like 90%, you might be in the top 25. If you can reject like 98% of the people that apply to you, then you're going to be maybe in the top 5 or 10. But that's exactly the opposite of who we are as the University of Tennessee. We want to be known for who we include, not who we exclude. And we're constantly waking up, striving for how we can get more students into the University of Tennessee, not trying to figure out how we can exclude them. So you can probably tell I'm not a big fan of some of the rankings.
Chairman Kumar.
Thank you for clarifying that. It's, I really admire your vision. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman.
Yes, sir. Any further questions, comments for President Boyd or Chairman Jenkins? Chairman Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if I may have just a little bit of latitude here, please. Not only is Dr. Boyd down there a good administrator for the University of Tennessee, I would like to recognize him as for 45 years, it's been 45 years since anybody's won anything around baseball in Sevier County or Knox County or anything. And just so that you'll know that the Tennessee Smokies won the 2023 Southeast Southern League Championship this year, and they got presented a big ring in Arizona. So I want to thank him for that, for his leadership for that, and go Tennessee Smokies.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Carr. Response to that, President Boyd?
Just thank you. It's been 45 years waiting as the owner of the team. Just a bit of inside baseball. You have to buy the rings for everybody, but it was the best money ever spent.
There you go. Representative Hemmer, you're next on my list, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to first of all, thank you and the board for changing your emissions policies and the deep dive y'all took on that. I think that'll benefit Tennesseans for years to come, especially keeping our best and brightest here in the state. So I want to do that first. And next, one of the things I saw from your questions you submitted about urgent needs with, it looks like it's around through 2025, around 389 million of facilities. I know this year's governor's budgets did not include anything for that. So I was hoping you could just expound upon that figure and what are some of the top facility needs that the university is requesting.
Yeah. In that figure, so we're thankful that the governor proposed $60 million, a little over $60 million for a new building for UT Chattanooga to support the College of Business. However, we have a desperate need for a new chemistry building at UT Knoxville. It's about $160 million that we need to have supported. This building is over 70 years old. It's falling apart. 8,000 of our students every year go through that building to major in anything from pre-medicine to animal science to chemical engineering. So it's a critical facility for us. So that's one that was an important one that we had requested funding for. And another one was a new gross anatomy lab for our UT Health Science Center, which it's almost the same situation. Everybody that goes into a medical profession goes through the gross anatomy lab, and ours is way has been obsolete for years. We've got to do something about that. We've got $3.5 billion for the projects that we've identified that we need to do over the next 10 years. Over the next 5 years. Now we know that we're not going to be able to fund that, but whatever we can do to chip away at that would be helpful. Another stat: we've got 298 buildings over 60 years old and 60 buildings over 100 years old. So even if we weren't growing, we would just need to invest a certain amount just to maintain the buildings that we have. But we are growing, as I mentioned, by 15% in the last 5 years. We plan to go from 59,000 students to 71,000 by the year 2030. Our state needs us to develop that talent for the work for the employers that we have. And so we're going to need to solve for that. I realize this year isn't the best year, but at some point we've got to be able to solve for this if we want to continue to provide the talent that we need.
Thank you.
Representative Clemens, you're next, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate you being here. And I just wanted to give you compliments. I think, you can judge leadership by the people who you keep around you. And I just want to say that your staff that you have up here working in the Capitol is very good. They're very responsive, and we appreciate their responsiveness to our inquiries. And so that says a lot about you and the university, and we appreciate that. And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, what's the Smokies parent ball club in the major leagues?
It would be the Chicago Cubs.
That's right, baby. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, what have we not talked about? Baseball and apple pie. Any further questions, comments for President Boyd or Chairman Jenkins? Seeing none, gentlemen, thank you for being with us here today. We're back in session.
Thank you.
Question has been called on the bill. Before I do that, Chairman Reagan, you have anything else to wrap it up, or we're ready to go?
I have no objections to the question.
Question's been called. All in favor of moving the bill out to calendar and rule signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition, nay? Bill moves out to calendar and rule. Chairman Reagan, the gavel's yours, sir.
Thank you, members. We are back on regular calendar right now. We're on item number 1, House Bill 1684. Leader Lamberth, you're recognized on the bill. We have a motion and a second for positive recommendation. You're clear for your explanation, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a revolving loan fund that would provide for the ability for us to be able to get additional federal funds to help prevent and address natural disasters.
Members, do you have questions of the sponsor? The question has been called. Do we have any objection? Seeing none, we are voting on sending House Bill 1684 to Finance, Ways and Means. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Bill moves out. Finance, Ways and Means.
Chairman, if I may.
You're recognized, sir.
Chairman, I make a motion to take up item 6 on the calendar at this time.
We have a motion and we have a second. Do we have any objections? Seeing none, we are moving to item number 6.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
We have a motion and a second on the bill. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion at this time for a neutral recommendation, a neutral recommendation.
We have a motion and a second for a neutral. The objections noted. It's inappropriate for the motion. We can have discussion on the motion. We have an objection on the floor, sir. So for that reason, do we have any? Sorry, say again, sir. You're recognized. Please use your mic.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you explain for the people watching the difference between a neutral recommendation as opposed to a positive or a negative?
Certainly. This committee can neither kill nor approve, or pardon me, pass a bill. We have the ability to recommend approval, neutral, or disapproval recommendations. Approval and disapproval are obvious. Neutral just sends it out without a recommendation whatsoever. You recognize, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And can you recall the last time this was done? Just out of curiosity. You've been the chair of this committee for a while.
Chairman Lamberth, you recognized?
Just a few minutes ago.
Beyond that, sir, it has been done in here before, while I have been on this committee. I don't remember specifics right now. It's been a while.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments on the motion? Seeing none, we are voting on a motion to send House Bill 2043 with a neutral recommendation to Finance, Ways and Means. All in favor indicate, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. If you wish to be recorded as no, see the clerk. Ayes have it. Bill passes out to Finance, Ways and Means with a neutral recommendation. Members, we're back in regular order now. We're on House Bill 2676 and I'm sorry, 2089, forgive me. Speaker Curtis, you recognized?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 2098 is an,
We have a motion for positive recognition and a second. Continue with your explanation, sir. Wait just a second. I've recognized him for an explanation, then you can make your motion. Okay? Go ahead, sir.
House Bill 2098 is an administration bill, and it merges the Department of Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities with the Tennessee Commission on Aging and Disabilities to create the Tennessee Department of Disability and Aging.
All right, thank you. Members, I misspoke. That's 2089 for the bill. And you've heard the explanation. Now the floor is open for questions of the sponsor or other items. You recognize, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see that there's a House Health Committee amendment. Is that traveling with the bill?
It should be.
Okay. Just wanted clarification. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions of the sponsor? Representative Henry, you recognized?
Thank you, Chairman. Just to clarify, so all the existing operations will be just rolled into intellectual disability division,
Right.
correct?
And
You recognize, sir?
the new department will be the Department of Disability and Aging.
Further questions? Seeing none, any closing comments, sir?
No, sir, Mr.
If,
Chairman.
if not, we have a motion for a positive recommendation. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we're voting on sending House Bill 2089 to calendar and rules. All in favor with positive I'm sorry, Finance, Ways and Means, forgive me. We're sending House Bill 2089 to Finance, Ways and Means with a positive recommendation. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Bill moves out with a positive recommendation to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee.
How do we abstain? I want me to mark it as an abstention.
If you wish to be recorded as other than affirmative, see the clerk. Okay, we're on item number 3 now. House Bill 2676. Chairman Williams, we have a motion and a second, sir. You are recognized for an explanation of your bill.
Thank you, Chairman and members. House Bill 2676, as the members may know, last year at appropriations, we had 2 hearings regarding THEC and our LGIs and our institutions of higher learning. I have worked with the Comptroller's office as it relates to the bill that you have before you. This bill currently process under higher education is a little bit overly bureaucratic. As members may know who were here, we passed the Focus Act many years ago that took the LGIs out from under the TBR umbrella, and those LGIs are operating separately than much like the UT system does, as you heard earlier in the committee. This bill capitalized on THEC's strengths while streamlining the process of higher education. One, this bill simplifies the institution's process for reviewing capital projects. Currently, as the members know, THEC provides a list, a categorical list that is graded based upon what those individual projects and how they are graded and how their recommendation to the administration and to this body in order for recommendation for those capital projects. As President Boyd testified earlier, the number 1 project on that list this year was the chemistry building that he said which was not funded. It also puts current academic program approval in the hands of the institutions instead of THEC. The reason for this change is because sometimes a local institution may have a new employer that comes to their community, and the process is very bureaucratic for being able to apply for a new degree delivery. This allows those local institutions of higher learning to be more nimble as it relates to the current workforce needs in their communities. It also reconstitutes the THEC board structure and gives the legislature more involvement in it. Finally, it goes to prevent duplication of efforts, and the bill consolidates the Tennessee Student Assistance Corporation, or TSAC, within THEC. It also will preserve what THEC does best as it relates to the Complete College Act or outcome-based formula as it relates to how we fund higher education. That and all their data collection services will remain at THEC. With that, Mr. Chairman and members, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Members, you've heard an explanation. Do we have questions of our sponsor? You're recognized, Representative Hemmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just curious, what's the genesis of this? Was this asked by THEC or any other organization?
You're recognized, sponsor.
The genesis, as I stated earlier, was the study that we did in the appropriations hearing last year as it relates to the discussion around the process by which we do it and some ways which we might continue to improve how we deliver higher education across the state, both in conjunction with this and the Comptroller's office, who is a current member of the THEC board.
Follow up, sir.
Yeah, I see the new board will be up to 19 members, 6 non-voting members, 13 appointed. Who would the non-voting members be?
You're recognized, sir.
1 moment, please. You're the first person to ask me that, young man. Oh. The trusted money cop. There he is. The ex officio members are the ECD commissioner, the labor commissioner or its designee, the executive director of the Board of Education or its designee, the UT president or its designee, the TBR chancellor or its designee, and one representative from the LGIs of the 6 LGIs that are there.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. My apologies on not knowing.
Any follow-up? Other questions of our sponsor? Seeing none, we have a motion for a positive recommendation. We're voting on House Bill 2676 to go to calendar and rules. All in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, moves out to calendar and rules. Thank you, Mr. Sponsor.
Thank you, Chairman and Member.
Members, we're on House Bill 2461 by Representative Davis. We have a motion and a second for positive recommendation. Chairman Davis, or Chair Lady Davis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, committee. What House Bill 2461 does is it allows for remote ultrasounds to be done for non-stress tests for fetal monitoring. So if you have a mother that is a high-risk pregnancy or potentially could be on bed rest, a lot of times later in that pregnancy, they have to have 2 or 3 of those non-stress tests for fetal monitoring in a week. Well, what can happen is that if you have transportation issues, or if you're someone that your doctor's office is far away, a lot of times they miss those appointments. And so then we're putting the health of the mother and the child at risk. And so what this does is it allows for that remote ultrasound to be performed to make sure that that doctor has the ability to monitor the health of the mother and the child.
Members, you've heard an explanation. Representative Hakeem, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, for my education.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What type of device, I say, is at the location where the mother is?
You're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. It can very easily, we had some individuals here from different groups. It can look like an iPad that essentially has the wand plugged into that iPad that they use it, and it obviously connects to the doctor's office, to his computer system, and he can remote with his mouse in and move and measure and take those measurements with that ultrasound.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions of our sponsor? Representative Kumar, you recognized. Chairman Kumar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Motion for a positive recommendation.
All right. I think what you're doing is calling the question. Is that correct, sir?
I think that's assumed.
Okay. Any objection to the question? Seeing none, we are voting on sending House Bill 2461 to calendar and rules with a positive recommendation. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Moves out to calendar and rules with a positive recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee.
Members, item number 5 on our agenda is 2942. Roll 2 weeks at the request of the sponsor. We've already dispensed with item number 6. We're down to item number 7. We have a motion and a second on House Bill 2748 by Chairman Faison. 2728, I'm sorry, by Chairman Faison. You are recognized for an explanation, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, this bill came to me by a constituent that I actually go to church with. Earlier in his life, he had got in trouble, served time in prison, got right, paid his debt to society. After he got out of prison, he was obviously on probation for several years, still on probation. He was fortunate enough to have a support group around him to where he could navigate all of the stuff that goes on and requirements of you when you get out of prison to be able to get a license. Couldn't get a license for a while, but able to get a job. Not long after he got his job, which he was fortunate enough, with the person's got a felony on their record, it's difficult to get a job. His probation officer decided that his meeting need to be at 9 o'clock on Wednesday. It's really difficult when you're already in a situation. You've put your best foot forward. Next thing you know, and there's no way out of it. And now his family who got him to work has got to go back, get him from work, take him there, and then he's got to look at his boss and say, I am so sorry, but I can't be here Wednesday morning. I've got to go to probation. So we came up with this notion that if the judge okays this and thinks that this person is safe enough to do a Zoom check-in or FaceTime check-in, something like that with the probation officer, that if the judge allows it, then that should be good enough for probation officers to say, we'll do a Zoom call. And that's what this bill does. There's an amendment that's traveling with the bill that had some requirements for the business, but we've taken that with the amendment. We took the requirements for the businesses out. So now, as long as the judge allows this, they can check in via FaceTime or Zoom, something like that.
Members, you've heard an explanation. Representative Hakeem, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Chairman Faison, just asking a question. What do we call it? Guardrail is the judge. And you're satisfied with that?
You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Hakeem, I believe that it provides enough security. And obviously, if there was a problem, that Department of Corrections could petition the judge, say there's a real issue. Incidentally, if there's drug testing requirements, this does not preclude that. They would still have to report for a drug testing requirement. Committee, I'm trying to put our best foot forward as a state to realize that some of these people who are doing their best to help themselves, we need to meet them halfway.
You're recognized for follow-up, sir.
Yeah, I just want to say that I agree with you where that person warrants it. But I just wanted to, I guess, not leave it perceived as being open-ended for just anyone, but that criteria, so to speak, that they have to meet.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman Clemens, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Chairman, sponsor, I appreciate the effort. I appreciate the legislation and the intent behind it. My only question is, I know that there's a big concern about defendants remaining or individuals remaining within a certain jurisdiction. Is there protections or technology in this? I don't know. Is there technology that tracks that location and assures that location of that individual?
You recognize, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was probably going to be part of the original bill with businesses having to weigh in. But the way we have it right now, the Department of Corrections, if we pass this bill, will actually establish the rules. The bill will actually come back in front of us by next year. I'd say we pass it, goes into effect July 1. Department of Corrections will start promulgating rules, and Chairman Ray, that will Clemens, sorry, Chairman Ray, John Ray Clemens. I'll get that in a minute. That Department of Corrections will promulgate rules based on that, and so yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for the intent of the legislation and the effort.
You recognize, sir. Any other? Representative Martin, you're recognized.
Chairman Faison, like you, I know some people who've lived an imperfect life. And I appreciate what you're trying to do here to give people that are honest dealers the opportunity to rehabilitate themselves and give them a path. Because I've known some people that have just been denied over and over and over again because of the obstacles. And I think this is very redemptive. I appreciate it. I think the main thing that I need to hear is that the discretion of this is really in the hands of one individual, and that's the judge. It's not the parole officer. It's not the inmate. It's not the person who's on parole. It is in the judge. Is that a true statement?
You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and that is correct. This is the discretion is left up to the judge.
Thank you.
Follow up? Seeing none. Any further questions of our sponsor? We have a question called on the bill. Do we have any objection to the question? Objection withdrawn then. All right. Without objection, then we're voting on House Bill 2728 going to calendar and rules. All in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Bill moves out with a positive recommendation. And now I will pass the gavel back to my vice chair.
Members, on item 9, House Bill 0236 by Chairman Reagan. Chairman Reagan, did I get a motion we got a motion and a second on the bill. Chairman Reagan, I do see that there's 2 amendments, and it's looking like the second is more clarifying than of the first. Is that the amendment that you want to take up, sir?
You are correct. I want to run House Bill 15610, sir, amendment.
And if there is no objection, it's untimely filed. We'll go ahead and take that up at this time. Give us that number one more time, Chairman Reagan.
015610.
Motion, can I get a motion second on the, motion second on the amendment? Chairman Reagan, please explain your amendment, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment rewrites the bill. What it does is put guardrails up for the anticipated rule changes that will come through Government Operations Committee as part of the rule review in the very near future. As you know, the governor has announced in his State of the State address that he will be eliminating or streamlining roughly 4,000 rules. This amendment requires that the rules be amended in accordance with that plan, first to be submitted to the chairs of Government Operations Committees of the House and the Senate 30 days prior to filing with the Secretary of State. These will already have been reviewed by the Attorney General's office. The chairs then may, acting jointly, determine the capacity of that committee to move forward, and if they so choose, may delay the filing of some of these rules with the Secretary of State. This amendment also clarifies that those rule filings that are amending existing rules but do not repeal them may only be promulgated through the rulemaking hearing rules, not proposed rules. This ensures those rules have a rulemaking hearing with the agency in question. In short, what this bill does is allowing us to create a throttle or a control mechanism not to overload our committee. With that, I stand ready for questions.
If there's no objection at this time, let's go ahead and put this amendment on the bill, and then we'll take questions. All in favor of Amendment 15610 being placed on House Bill 236, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition, nay. Amendment goes on. Representative Clemens, questions for the chairman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm curious, I'm concerned about the elimination of so many rules that were proposed this year. Does this amended bill in any way limit our ability as a body and as a committee to object to the elimination of any of those rules?
Chairman Reagan,
No, sir, it does not.
Chairman Clemens.
Can you elaborate about the portion of that allows the chairs acting jointly to determine the capacity to review such rules? I understood you didn't want to overload the committee, but would that allow you to pick and choose which rules come through here, or is that just regards to the setting the calendar?
Chairman Reagan.
It is regards to how many are on the calendar, sir. It's not going to be pick and choose.
Thank you.
Any further questions, comments for Chairman Reagan on the bill? Seeing none. Representative Jones.
Thank you, Representative Reedy. For Representative Reagan, I was just curious, you said that these rule changes would go first to the chairmen of both government operations in the House and the Senate. When will members see them? Will we be able to see them at the same time, or will it come at a different time?
Chairman Reagan.
Okay, let me clarify. First, they go to the Attorney General, and then they will come to the chairs. And the chairs at that point are only going to be making a decision on capacity, not the validity of the rules where they come forth. As we have discussed, Chairman Roberts and I have discussed, what we're planning on doing is having rules that are repealed, summarized in a short paragraph, read onto the record in front of this committee. Anybody on the committee at that time may object. The idea being that we're going to go through them as efficiently and quickly as possible. Those to whom or to which an objection is made will be handled in a separate capacity. This bill is only about a throttle mechanism. It's not about what rules come before us.
Representative Jones.
Would you have any objection then after it goes to Attorney General for all members of the committee to have the same information from that next step, or do you only want it to come to the chairman? Would you be opposed to all members of government operations in the House and Senate getting the same information from the Attorney General before we proceed, or do you want to just limit it just for the two chairs to only know this information?
This committee, thank you. This committee will indeed see all of them. All the two chairs are doing is a bean count. How many can we handle? That's all the two chairs are doing. It's an administrative function. I don't see a reason to put everybody under that burden. I don't think there's a problem with that if you particularly wanted to. But the idea is that this is just a mechanism to control the number that come before us so that we have, so let me rephrase that. We don't have to be here 4 days a week to run through these bills. We can do these in a select order that is timely fashion.
Okay. Representative Martin. Question's been called on the bill. No opposition? All in favor of taking House Bill 236 as amended onto calendar and rules signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition, nay. Bill moves out to calendar and rule. Chairman Reagan, the gavel is yours, sir.
Thank you. Members, before we adjourn, an announcement. Next week, joint rule review at 13:30 or 1:30 in the afternoon in this room. I'm sorry, is it 10 a.m.? 10 a.m. I'm staying corrected. Joint rule review is 10 a.m. next Monday in this room. And then House Gov Ops is at 1:30 in this room. Thank you. Appreciate the correction. We have a motion to adjourn, non-debatable. We're adjourned.